Hi, my name is Jen Bishop, and I'm going to be talking about the acceptable usage policy for Mount Vernon City School District. I am working with this policy because this is the district I work in, so I revised our current policy. To begin with, I thought that the policy did a good job with the preamble and the definitions, and also just the general services that were covered and what is acceptable and unacceptable, like was discussed in getting started on the internet. Um, Overall, I thought that the policy was very formal. It wasn't a personal policy. For example, with some of the policies and the Columbus policy, there was a more personal approach with me than you. This has more of a legal document feel to it. To start, I began with just the purpose and the need. They originally had this whole section of purpose and need all together with no separation of paragraph. I went ahead and separated here just to kind of clarify and show what happens if there is a violation, and also to make sure that it's understood that this is a privilege, and using those resources means that the person, the authorized user, is accountable for their actions and responsible for everything they're doing. And finally, most importantly, I just put stars by these to highlight, the district has the district medical resources are a privilege and they are not a right. So as with anything else, it's something that can be taken away if there's abuse. With eligibility, I liked how they explained who was allowed to use the different grade levels. One thing I did change with the second part here, they actually had, and the current policy is that during the summer the students lose their student email account. However, they would like for teachers and coaches to use their student email account, and as a coach you have to contact my athletes in the summer. It's kind of a problem to not be able to reach them through email. So one thing that if it could be changed that I would change would be that the access would expire upon graduation or withdrawing from the district. That way students have access to their accounts all year. If you have a junior or senior a junior going to be a senior who's going to be putting down college applications, they can use their school account, and it's an acceptable account to use them. Also, the account that students get when they are in middle school now is the same one that they're using in high school, and then in the future it would be the same one that as they're getting it when they're younger that goes through their whole career. Also, with number 4, it said that acceptance of the terms is required in order to be authorized user and must be accepted on an annual basis. Just to clarify, the personnel are responsible for annually accepting this usage policy. This is explained a little bit later on, but this is something that the faculty and all of the staff have to do yearly. The faculty and staff do this online, but the students actually still have the paper document. I could see this changing in the future. But also, just to make it clear, the access will be denied to personnel. Students have not turned in or updated their acceptable usage policy. At this point, students normally have a week or two before there is a cutoff date, and once this date's reached, then accounts are frozen and they're not able to sign into any of the school computers. I also added in number 6, it's been said before, but just to keep reiterating, it's an the access is a privilege and not a right. Everyone is expected to act responsibly and will be held accountable for their usage and their digital footprint. At the beginning of the year, all of the students are getting the new technology information that's mandated, and just to make it clear that what they're doing, this is not their personal home computer that they're using. After reading the Columbus schools, I added in a waiver of privacy. I think it's important to put this has to do with privacy, but it really is the idea that you are giving up privacy when you are using this school-based system. next thing that I looked at, they did mention web access. I tried to change this a bit for part F, but we actually have a new superintendent this year, so some pieces of this may be changing. I did add in that use of proxy servers to circumvent restrictions is a violation. One of the biggest problems we are having right now at my school district is the students and the teachers do not have access to a lot of websites, for example, YouTube. Students are getting around this and using proxy servers to go ahead, they get on YouTube, but the teachers still don't have access. And just to make it clear, this is a violation, this is something that is not allowed. For H, I put security and due process, and this is, again, I liked how the Columbus acceptable usage policy went. Just making it clear that there are consequences if someone violates this agreement. I added in the technology coordinator or building supervisor. To me, this security seemed more about the security of the network, but I think at the same time it has to do with the security of the students and the users and their well-being. So I'd add in building supervisor and even reporting in person, because depending on the situation, it may be that these people need to be contacted because of an issue that affects the security of passwords and all that, but also personal information. And finally, at the very end, again, this is taken from the Columbus City Schools acceptable usage, just that the school district will cooperate fully with local, state, and federal officials in any investigation. And just making it clear to everyone that there are consequences, and that this is not just the student code of conduct or just for reprimands for personnel. It can go beyond that. I did like how they have the acceptable usage when they talked about what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. They went through and it has everything bulleted. It goes on for a few pages with it. With the cyberbullying, I thought it was touched upon. I went ahead and added in the student code of conduct is always in effect and applies in actions and words in both real and virtual situations. I think it's something that some of the students don't realize is what they're putting out there. It still falls under the code of conduct the same as if they'd be in the school hallway. Finally, originally the policy said that all computers equipment must be board accepted and technology department approved. I could see this changing in the future, just with access to devices. Most students have at the very least a phone. I could see it changing to where it doesn't have to be a school provided device, but instead one that maybe, again, after you sign the policy and you have one updated and currently on file, that you maybe are given access to the Wi-Fi services, or just connecting to the network. And then as we go down, the last thing, originally it said or discs. At this point, I put memory devices, maybe DVDs, maybe CDs, but discs just seemed a little bit behind. For the end of the policy, they had the internet safety. I also went ahead and when they were talking about the safety, they said that permission could be given to staff members or to students. Again, we have a new superintendent, so it might change. Currently, staff doesn't have access or an override code. So, for example, if I would like to show a video to my classroom, I have to get it approved and sent to my principal, and then the principal has to send it off to the technology department, and then it goes from there. And what usually ends up happening is that the code doesn't get back to the teacher until a few days later, and sometimes even if you planned ahead for several days, the code's only good for 24 hours before it expires. So I put that personnel will be given access codes to use at their discretion in order to provide material to enhance learning, and then that staff with supervision would be able to give access to students for research or other lawful purposes. And again, this part was actually originally in there It just didn't mention specifically for only students. And then finally, they touch on receiving training. Everyone does get the acceptable usage policy at the beginning of each school year. I could see where they might put in training in August or by a date, so I left it blank so that it could be added in. And I really like how they had the record retention. I think that's something that they've talked in the fall about the digital footprint with the kids. It's something that's not necessarily considered. And finally, they actually gave the address that is used by the personnel to go and accept the two acceptable usage policies for LACA and for the actual school district. They end with having the student parent agreement. Originally on this, it went into getting permission from a faculty member to use the computers. Students get passes to go to the library, but it doesn't necessarily say you are specifically getting access for a computer. So I put that students are responsible for upholding the guidelines set forth by the acceptable usage policy and student code of conduct. And I also added in for the students and the parents that printed things, because sometimes it is difficult to read and it would be easier to have on hand. And the last one is the web page release form. I did not change any of the information on this. This just has to be more with material pictures, essays, work that the students do during the year, and having access to that and having it put online. And those are the revisions for the Mount Vernon City School District acceptable usage policy.